Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we're going to be learning about built-in methods and custom methods. But before we get into the content, we're going to take a short check-in from last week. So if you can go to the website, I'll share my screen. If you can go to the website, as you can see here, you go to week 4, and then you go to check-in right here. And if you go to check-in, you will see the link, and it says here is a link to the short quiz. I will also put this into the chat so you can take it. Let's give 7 minutes to complete the quiz, and after that, if you still have not finished, you can finish later. We'll get started with the lesson, inshallah. So the link that I put in the chat, it's a check-in from last week, week 4. So it's a small quiz, not a test. I'm assuming yes. Okay, so assalamu alaikum everyone. We're going to be learning about built-in methods and also custom methods in Java. So in this lesson, we're going to learn how do we create our own method? How do we call our own method? How do we use built-in methods from Java, like from the string class, the math class, integer and double classes to do simple tasks. And we're also going to learn about what are return types and what are parameters in a method. So these are the key terms that you need to know. So methods, built-in methods, custom methods, parameter, and return type. And we're going to go over all of these terms. So, just keep these at the back of your mind. Just remember that these are words that we're going to learn throughout the lesson. So what are methods? Methods are basically a group of statements that complete a task. So for example, we have methods to calculate the maximum number in a list. So what is the greatest number? How do we calculate the area of a circle? The price of an order. So when you want to, let's say you have a number of pizzas and a number of sodas, you want to know what is the total price. And you can also calculate the age of a person. So these are all examples that we can use methods for. Why are methods useful? Well, we can use it to group one or more repeatable statements. So we don't have to write the code over and over again. So that's one reason. Another reason is that it makes the code very easy to read for someone who's looking over your code. So someone else, like if we are looking at your code, or if your partner, so if you work, if you create programs in the future, you will probably have to work with someone. So if you want to make it easy for them to understand, you would use a method. And then to the right, you see this little GIF of this dog doing small chores, like, washing the, watering the plants, taking out the garbage, mowing the lawn, frying food. So these are all examples of tasks that, we could even make into a method. So, that's just a simple example. Can you think of other examples of methods? In the chat, maybe some people can type in what are some other examples of methods. Tax of salaries, yep. Yes, Bucker, I also, it would be nice to have a dog that can do all of these things for us. or anything, you know, even a robot. Anyone else? Any other examples? Okay, we'll just move on then. So we're going to be learning about built-in methods and custom methods. So built-in methods are methods that we can just use in Java. So they're already there for us. We'll learn more about that. And then custom methods are methods that we make on our own from scratch. So for example, you know, in our exercises, so in the homeworks, you have to make a program to guess the number. So you can put all of that code in your own method, and that would be a custom method. So we're going to learn about built-in and custom methods. And there are also different types of methods. So there are methods that return a string, an integer, double, Boolean, or character, and there are more. They can return an array, or they can return nothing. So what it means to return something is to, you know, give back like a number. So remember in our previous weeks, we just printed the result. So instead of printing the result, we're going to return a data type. So we can return a string, we can return an integer or an array, or we don't have to return anything. There are also the number of parameters that you specify in a method. So a method can take in 0, 1, 2, 3. For example, if you want to calculate the area of a circle, you would just take in one parameter, which is the radius. And then there are also methods that are public, private, and protected. And we're going to learn about this in a future lesson. So you don't have to worry about the last bullet. So these are the different parts to a method, and we're going to break them down bit by bit. So let's see, where's the pointer? So this is called an access modifier. So we're going to learn about this in the next week, more about it. But for now, whenever you create a method, always start with public. And if you haven't realized already, you've actually been using a method, which is the main method. So that is an example of a method that we have already used. So I just wanted to point that out. So we have a public, this public keyword, we need it. We also have the return type. So this method is called maximum or max. So what it does, it takes in two numbers. So it takes two integers, so x and y. So these are called the parameters. So parameters is what it takes in, so the input. And method also has a name, so maximum or max, and a return type, which is the integer. So it returns, you know, which one is greater, x or y. So you see this is a simple if statement that you can write all in the main method, but if we want to make things easy to read, we put it in our own method, which is a custom method. And this red box is called the signature of a method. We'll learn more about that in the next week. So is everything clear about the different parts of a method? So we have access modifier, a return type, so what we're returning. So you see this return keyword. So if x is greater than y, return x, or this else would be if x is less than or equal to y, then we return y. And this static keyword, don't worry about it right now, but whenever you create a method, you should always use this static right now or for now. So how do we call a method? So there are specific rules that we have to follow. So for example, if we have this max method that takes in two numbers, an integer x and integer y, we should pass in the exact number of parameters that it requires. So if we want to call this method max, then we would do, So we would do max 4, 5. So because there are 2 parameters, we will only put in 2 parameters. So we cannot have max 4. We need 2 numbers. So the parameters type must also match the data type in the signature. So we cannot pass in a double, right? So we cannot do max 4.7, 5.8. We can't do that. Because here it says it has to be an integer. So integer x, integer y. The parameters that you have to pass in, you have to have them in the correct order. So here it doesn't matter so much, but let's say you have an integer parameter and a string parameter. So integer x, string str, then you have to you have to pass in the integer first and then pass in the string. So 4, for example, Rumaisa. You can't have Rumaisa, 4. And then the structure for calling the method is the method name. And then inside you have the parameters that you pass in. So value 1, value 2, all the way to like as many as you need. So as many as the method requires. Given this method, we have a method called public static string greeting. So the method name is greeting. It returns a string, and it takes in 2 parameters. It takes in a name, and it also takes in an age. And if you look at the code, it's we have done this before. String greet equals hello, my name is plus name, and I am plus age years old, and then it returns the greeting. So based on this code, which of these statements are correct and which of them are incorrect? I'll give you guys 5 minutes to think about which ones are correct, which ones are incorrect, and then I'll ask a couple of students to share what they got. So remember the correct way to call a method, as we saw before. You have to pass in the right number of parameters. You must match the data type correctly. They have to be in the right order. And then this is the structure. So I'll paste these slides in the chat so you can look at the previous slides for reference. Okay, so can anyone tell me if the first statement, so greeting 15, Aisha, can someone tell me if that is right or wrong? So is it the right way to call a method or is it the wrong way? So Becker said wrong. Ra said wrong. Wrong, yep. So yes, it is wrong. Does someone want to tell me why? Yes, it's because age is before name. So if we see here in the signature, so signature is just the first line of the method where we write the return type, the name of the method, the parameters. So this is called the signature right here, this first line. I'm not sure if you can see the pointer. So this first line, and you see here we have name and then we have int age. So we have to pass in the name first, so a string first, and then an integer. We cannot have an integer and then a string, right? So this is wrong, okay? So what about the second one? We'll go a little faster. Wrong, right? So Besher said it has 1 parameter. That's correct. So we need 2. We need the string, and we also need the integer. We also need the age. So this is wrong as well. Okay, so the third one, is the third one correct or incorrect? Yeah, the second parameter is a double, so yeah, this should be incorrect. What about the fourth one? Yes, it is correct. So because we have the string and then we have the integer, so this is correct. What about the next one? Yeah, there is no name. That's right. So it's wrong. And then the last one? Wrong. So can someone tell me why? Yeah, so it's a Boolean data type. We want a string and we want an integer. So this is really this is not right at all. So if you realized by now, there's only really one way to call a method. So if you're not doing it right, then Java will tell you most likely. So there's really one way to call a method. So now that we looked at, how do we call a method, what a method looks like, we're going to go into the different types of methods. So there are methods that return void. So remember in our previous lessons, we just printed statements. So that is an example we can use for a method that returns void. So void means that it doesn't return anything. So what it does is it just does whatever's in the method. So for example, we have the main method, and then we have, we call the method greet. So there's, you can see public static void. I don't think I have the pointer on. Okay, so public static void greet, string name. So this is the name of the method is greet. The parameter is string name. And what it does is it just prints out, given the name of the person, hello, Ramaisa, hello, Danish, hello, Bashar, right? So this does not return anything, right? If it has to return something, then we'll use the return keyword. And we'll go into that in the next slide. So as you can see, to the right, we have the output. If we call the method greet John, it should print hello John, right? Greet Kevin, hello Kevin. Greet Stacy, hello Stacy. Greet Raj, hello Raj. So this is an example of a method that doesn't return anything. And so it has to have void over here. So before we saw int, because it returns an ints for the maximum. But here we write void if we don't want to return anything. The second type is a method that returns a string. So it should be public static string because it returns a string, greet. So instead of printing greet in the method greet, we just return the string. So system.out.println greet John, right? So then it would print hello John. So this would be a string. So what we are printing is a string. So greet Kevin, greet Stacy, greet Raj. And we have this return keyword here. So if it returns a string or an integer or a double, we always need to have this return keyword. So there's also a method that returns a double. So let's take the example of calculating the price of an order. So if you go to Pizza Hut, for example, and you want to order 2 pizzas and 4 sodas, right? And you want to know what is the price of my order? We made a method called calculate price. So right here, it takes in 2 parameters, integer num pizzas and another integer called number of sodas. So you must be careful, right? You have to first put the number of pizzas and the number of sodas. You can't mix it, you can't switch the two, otherwise you'll get a different number, right? So the price per pizza is, let's say, 5 dirhams, $5 actually, or price per soda is $1.5, right? So the price should be the price per pizza times the number of pizzas, and the soda price should be the price per soda times the number of sodas, and then we just add these two together to get the total price of our order. So you can see that if I call this calculate price and I pass in these two integers, x and y, and I print it, it will come up with the right answer. So there's also a method that returns an int. So when we learned loops in the last lecture, so this method is using a loop. We can also put loops inside our method. So we take in an array. So our parameter is an array of numbers, so they're integers, and we want to return an integer. So we're going to find what is the greatest number from the list. So we use a for each loop, and what we do is we say let the first number be, let's say it's a maximum. Then we go through the loop and then we check, is this maximum less than the number? If it is, then we have a new maximum, and then we keep doing that until we find the maximum from the list. So if we run this method, int max equals max from list, and we want to print what is max, it will print 6. And then if you check here, 6 is the maximum number. And there's also a method that returns Boolean. So if we want to find out, is a number even or is it odd, right? So we can create a method called isEven that takes in an integer number, right? And we use the modulus operator, so the remainder operator. So if num percent or modulus 2, modulo, num modulus. So if num modulo 2 equals 0, so if there's no remainder, then we return true, else we return false. So the reason why this is correct is because we have this Boolean that we're returning. So if we print, what is the output? So is this number even? Is 5 even? No, it's not even. Is 4 even? Yes. Is 8 even? Yes. Is 234,341, is it even? No. So so we can create a nice method to make our code more organized. If we really wanted to, we can put this inside our main method, but then we wouldn't be able to call different numbers. We'd have to repeat the code again and again. So based on what we learned, I want you guys to make 4 custom methods. So add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And each method should take 2 double parameters. So x and y, for example, or it can be a and b. Then you have to compute the arithmetic operation. So for add, it's x plus y, subtract is x minus y, and so on. And then you should return the result. So the result should be a double, and you should call each method in the main method like we did before here. So in the main method, and you should print it. You should print the answers, and we're going to take 10 minutes. So I'll start the timer now. Okay, so we have a volunteer. Bashar, would you like to share your screen and explain your code? I don't think we can hear you. If you're muted. Can anyone hear Bashar? No. Yeah, I can't hear Bashar either. Oh, yes, we can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, fine. So I started with defining 4 methods. The first one I call public static double because I wanted to copy and paste it 4 times. So I write it public static double add the first one, and inside the parameters I start with double x and double y. So you can put whatever you want, any number, not just integer or something. And I return the x plus y, which is the summation of the 2 numbers. The same thing with the subtract, double x, double y, the first number minus the second number. So it's x minus y. Multiply x multiply by y, and divided the same thing. The main method I initialize it with 2 integer numbers, whatever you want you can put here, 10 and 5 in my case. And the for print statement, the first one add x and y, subtract x and y, multiply x and y, and divided x and y. And it works. Like 10 plus 5, 15, 10 minus 5, 5, 10 multiplied by 5, 15, and 10 divided by 5, it's 2. Everything
MashaAllah. Great job. Does anyone have any questions for Bashar on what he did, why he did?
So I stop sharing.
I don't think we have any questions. So we're going to continue on with the lesson. Great. Okay. So we did the first exercise. And now, well, since I promised you guys a 5-minute break, I think we're going to take 5 minutes to just, maybe get some water, relax, stretch. And then we're going to go into built-in methods. So methods that we don't have to make ourselves, but we can just use them from Java. Okay, so we're going to start now. So now we're going to learn about built-in methods. So is everyone here? Can you type here in the chat so I know that everyone is paying attention? So if you're here, maybe thumbs up or okay, cool. So now we're going to learn about built-in methods. So before we learned about custom methods, so those are methods that we made ourselves, like max or add, subtract. So those are methods that we made. Now we're going to be learning about methods that we don't have to make, but we just can call them, and they're methods from Java. So these are called built-in methods. So why should we use built-in methods? Well, they're very useful in that you don't have to work from scratch. So, if you want to calculate the like a very complex like math function, like sine, you don't have to like write the function for that. You can just use from Java. It takes less time and lets you work on the more challenging problems. So you don't have to work on the simple code. You can just use the code from Java and then work on the more challenging problems. And the built-in methods are actually more efficient. So they're faster than just using method that you create on your own. And we'll still learn how to write some of these methods from scratch so that we can build our Java skills and become better at writing in Java. So today we're going to be learning built-in methods from the string class, math class, integer, and double classes. So before we get into the methods, we're going to just talk about index. We talked about it last week in week 4. So index is the location or the position of a character in a string. So in arrays, it is the location of a data in a list. So the location of, let's say, if you have a list of names, the location of a specific name in a list. And but in strings, it's referring to the position of a character. So if you have the string hello, these are the indexes for each character. So for H, it has the character or the index 0. For the character E, it has index 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we always start from 0. So in math, you count 1, 2, 3, 4. In Java, you do 0, 1, 2, 3. So we can use indexing to get a smaller string from a bigger string, and we'll look at this when we take a look at one of the string methods, which is called substring. So yeah, we went over this example, string x equals hello, and this is how the indexes would look like for each character. So these are some common string methods. We've already used some of them, like length. Actually, we've used this for an array. So if you've done array.length, this is very similar. So like array.length returns the number of elements in an array, right? The number of numbers or the number of strings or the number of doubles, whatever. That's array.length. The string.length returns the number of characters. So for example, hello, right? HELLO has 5, so 5 should be the length of hello. And then substring is another method that we use all the time. And what it does is you have a bigger string, right? So string hello, how are you? And then let's say you have that string, and then you use the substring method and you just want to get how are you, right? So you want to take have a bigger string, you want to get a smaller string from that. So that's when you would use substring. And there are 2 ways you can call substring. So one version of substring, you pass in the starting index, and then it goes all the way to the end. So it returns a substring from the starting index to all the way to the end. The second version of substring returns the substring starting from the beginning index to the ending index -1. We'll go over examples in the next slide. So if you're a little bit confused, that's okay. Then we have the contains method. So what if we want to see if a string is inside a bigger string, right? So if I say I like chocolate, and we want to see if chocolate is inside the string, then we can use the contains method. So it returns true if the bigger string contains a smaller string. And then finally, we have the equals method, which returns true if the 2 strings are equal. So if I have string name 1 equals Ramaisa, string name 2 equals Ramaisa, I want to see if they're equal. This so Ramaisa dot equals Ramaisa will be true, right? But if I have another string like Ramaisa and Ro'a, right? So that will be false. So all of these methods, we'll go over how to call them in the next slide. So for example, we have a string 1 equals hello plus have a nice day. So we learned in the last few lessons that if we have a plus, then we just combine these 2 strings. So you just imagine that this was one big string, right? And then for string 2, we have welcome. So if we want to use the string length method, all we have to do is take the string 1 dot length, and we would get the length of the string, so the number of characters. So that we see here that the length of string 1 is 23. And if we can count it, but it would take some time. So you would see that it is 23. And then we have substring. So there are two versions, as I mentioned. There is a substring with only one parameter, and then there's substring with two parameters. So the substring with one parameter, this is the beginning index. So it returns a new string from index 7 all the way to the end. So for example, if we have string1.substring 7, we can count all the way to the 7th index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it will start from this letter H. So let's go back, sorry. So it will start from this letter H and it'll go all the way to the end. So have a nice day should be the new string. And then the second version is has two parameters. So the beginning index and the ending index, right? So I could do string1.substring 14, 18, which means it starts at 14 and it ends at 18 minus 1. So the 14th character of string 1 should be this letter N. So it goes all the way to 18. So if we count 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So what we do is we don't count this last one, 18, and we only take 14 to 17. So that's what 14, 18 means. So if you see here, it only, it shows nice, not nice with a space. And then you have hello. So if we want to check if the string 1 contains the word hello, we do string1.contains hello, and that should be true. If we do like string1.contains welcome, that should be false because it's not in string 1. And then we can also test the equals method. So let's see if string 2 equals welcome. So this is false because this has a capital W and this has a lowercase w. So when we're checking for equals to see if two strings are equal, it has to look exactly like the other string. So you cannot have a capital W, otherwise it will think that it is not the same string. So let's say we have the string string str, I like bananas. So which statements will correctly give the string bananas? So based on the substring methods that we learned, which ones are correct? And which ones are incorrect? So none of these will cause an error, but which one will, if you print a sub_str, which one will give bananas and which ones will not? So I will give you guys 5 minutes and then we'll go over the answers. Okay, so does someone want to tell me if the first one, will it will the value of substring be bananas or will it be something else? So Bashar says it's incorrect. Ross also says it's wrong. Walid says nope. So let's see. Yeah, it's wrong. So this will give bananas. And so the reason, I guess, why someone could make this mistake is because they're counting from 1 and not counting from 0. So if you count from 0, you would do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you would have to start from here. But if you counted starting from 1, then this would look like 8, but it's not. What will the second one, is the second one correct, incorrect? What will it return? Yes, it's correct. So the second one will output bananas. Okay, doing good so far. What about the third one? So what will is the third one correct or incorrect? And then what will it output? Yep, Busher is right. So it will return I like. It won't return bananas. So it's starting from 0 and ending at 7. So what it will do is it will go from 0, so which is I, all the way to 7. But because the way that substring is, it won't go to B. It will go to the empty space here. So it would be 7 minus 1, so it'd go to index 6. What about the fourth one? Yeah, it's incorrect. So it will output banana, not bananas. We want bananas. So how do I go to the... Yep. So what about the last one? Yeah. So the reason why this one is not correct is because you start from 7 and you start at index 7 and you end at index 13. So let's do this. So if we say 1, 0, right? Sorry, I 0, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I don't know if the pointer is showing, so I'll do it again. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So starting from 7. Then we do 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So because of the way that substring is, it doesn't include the last index. So it's 13 minus 1. So we'll actually output banana and not bananas. So what about the last one? Last one is correct. So yes, the fourth one will output I like bananas, Becker. So that's right. So these are some other string methods that are very useful. We won't go into examples, but if you want to look at examples later on, they're still in the slides. So there are different methods like to lowercase, to uppercase. So if you pass in a string, then it will turn all the letters into lowercase, or it will turn all the letters into uppercase. Char at will return the character at the specific index. So, and then there is compare to, and there's is empty, which checks if the string is empty. So these are some other methods that you can look at later on, and they're very useful. So now we're going to go into math class methods, and this is like one of the most useful classes that we use in Java. So these are some common methods. So math.pow stands for power. So if in math you have done like 2 to the power 3, right? Where 2 is the exponent and then 3 is the power. If I'm saying it, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but oh, sorry. So we have 2 to the power 3. So we pass in 2 doubles. So if we pass in A as 2 and B as 3, then it should be 2 to the power 3, and the result should be 8. So this is math.pow. And then there is math.ab. So ab stands for absolute value. So if we give it a positive number like 6, then it should return 6, 6.5. It's still okay. It should return 6.5. If we give it negative 7.9, then it should return 7.9. So if it's a negative number, then it returns a positive number. If it's already positive, then it doesn't do anything. And then the square root takes the square root of a number. So the square root of 4 is 2. So if we pass in A as 4, then we should get 2. And then math.round is a very useful method in Java if we want to round the number to the nearest integer, nearest double. So if we pass in 3.7, it should round it to 4. If we pass in 3.4, it should round it down to 3. So just like in math, when you round, there is a method just like that in Java that does it for you. And there are many other methods like sine, cosine, but we won't get into those methods in the slides. So these are some examples, right? So 2 to the power 3 is math.pow 2, 3, and this result is 8. Then we have the absolute value of negative 34 or minus 34. You do math.abs, minus 34 is 34. Then the square root of 16 is 4, right? And then 3.8 rounded to the nearest integer is 4. So these are all the common methods that we saw in the previous slide as an example. So based on what we learned, I want you guys to make a method called circle area that calculates the area of a circle. So if you want to remember, again, the area of a circle is A equals pi r squared, where pi is a constant, and you should use 3.14 for that, so you should have a separate variable. So the method circle area should take in one parameter, and that should be the radius r, and it should return the area. So the last requirement is that it should use one or more math class methods that we learned. So if we go to the previous slide, it has to use math.pow or math.abs, math square root, or math round, whichever one that you think is most appropriate for this exercise. So it has to use one of these 4 methods. And I'll give you guys 7 minutes. If you're done, then type done in the chat, and then I'll ask someone to share their solution. Would someone like to share their answer with everyone? Volunteer? Okay, great. So Muhammad wants to share his answer with us.
So, assalamu alaikum again. Just let me share my screen. You can see it now, right?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so I started with the public static double CA, which is circle area, double R, curly brackets, double pi equals 3.14, and return math power R, which I wrote in the main, R equals 3, for example. R power to 2 multiply by pi, which is I already write here. And in the system output, the circle area for a circle with R is, I didn't know what to write specifically, so I read this, is, and it will print the return of the thing. So let's try to run it. Hope it works. There is something.
Oh,
no.
so,
No.
you just...
No.
Yeah. I think
why it's
because you have a compiling error in that class, it's always going to go back to it. So go back to that class that had an
deleted
error.
that class.
No, it will still, you didn't delete it. It's still there. So sub is...
What if
so
we did
you
this?
have 2 return statements in line 10, so just remove sub.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think that should be good.
The circle area for a circle with a 3 is 28.26. And I think it's right.
Yep. Yeah, I think it is right too. So one more thing that you can do is in the math class, there's also a constant called math.pi. So in line 7, can you try writing double pi equals math.pi?
Here.
Yeah, math.py. So capital M, math dot, and then pi.
Pi.
So with capital so
yep.
yeah. So if we want to be very exact, then we can use the constant that the math class has. We don't even have to remember what pi is. So that's another very useful thing.
And the number changed because it gives the right pi for them.
So does anyone
else?
have any questions for Mohammed?
Okay, then I will stop sharing.
Okay, so we're almost there. We only have a few more slides left. So now we're just going to go into the integer and double methods, but there's really only two that you should know, and we've already used them before. So the integer and double with capital I and capital D, they stand for the Java classes. So lowercase, so int and lowercase d for double, those are the primitive data types. But if we say integer with a capital I and double with a capital D, we're talking about the Java classes. So there is one method called integer.parseInt. And what this does is if you give a string that stands for a number, then it will return the integer value of it. So if you give it 2 with the quotes around it, it should return 2 as an integer, a simple integer. So then there's also double.parseDouble. So if you give it a string, 2.5 with the quotes around it, then it should return 2.5. And this is used when we're reading input into our Java program, and we want to change the data type from string to integer or double. So we want to use the number, so we have to convert it from a string to an integer or a double. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask now, because we're not going to go over an example for this because we've already done this a little bit in the homework. So I'll just move on if there are no questions. So these are the key terms that we learned. I want you guys to think about them. What do they mean in your own words? And then we're going to go over each of them. So can someone tell me what is a method? Or what is their own definition of a method? It's in the very first slide. You can type it in the chat, or you can just unmute. So Muhammad says that a method is a list of statements. Yes, that is correct. A method is a list of statements that we can use to accomplish like one big task, or maybe a group of smaller tasks. Does anyone want to share what they had for built-in methods? Yeah, so Muhammad says that built-in methods is a ready-to-use method. So we don't have to make it, we can just use it, right? Can anyone share what they had for custom methods? Yep, so Becker says that custom methods are the methods that we make from scratch. That is right. So what is a parameter? Someone other than Muhammad or Becker this time. What a method gets from the main method. Yes, that is correct. So if you're talking about, like, we define two variables, for example, int x, int y. So this is in the main method. Sorry, someone was calling. Okay, so parameter is, yes, so what a method gets from the main method. If you have integer x and integer y, this is in the main method, then you pass it into a function, right? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. It's what is passed in, right? From the main method. What is a return type? So Besher says it's what the method will return. So it can be integer, double, Boolean, or it returns nothing. That is correct. So good job, everyone. So these are the definitions that we came up with. Just take 30 seconds to look at them. So today we learned, how do we create our own methods? How do we call our own methods? How do we use built-in methods from Java? And what are return types and parameters? So this is what we learned today. And here is a link to the homework. So you should submit your homework by Thursday, February 25th. If you have any questions about, week 5 homework or any of the homeworks in the previous lessons, then please come to office hours. We have them on Sundays and Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Jordan time. If both of these times do not work for you, then please ask us and then we can find a time to meet together. So when you're finished, then you should email to the same email, hhrd.compsci@gmail.com. Any questions? Does everyone know where the homework is? I can share my screen just to make sure, because I want to make sure that everyone knows where it is. So if we go to the website and we go to week 5, then we go to, oh, I did not post the link yet. So I will, the link is actually in here. So I will put that link in the chat right now, but later on today, I will also put the link on the website. So here's a link to your homework. If you open it up, it should look like this. So first problem is about volumes, then guessing the fruit, and then getting distance. These are optional problems. And that's it.